So what's up, man? You wanted to hop on. What do you want to discuss here? You want to talk
Yeah,
about how
I just,
kale is poison?
well, I mean, I have no problem if people want to eat it. I'd be careful with kale personally. I don't think it's the best food you can eat. But I just think a lot of your arguments against evolutionary meat eating could be levied, or in today's day and age, could be levied against plant eating. You know, some of the same things you say, like, for example, well, how would you be able to do this? How would you be able to do that? I could say the same to you. Well, you're not feeding yourself, right? You go to the supermarket to get your food. You say it's easy. You know, you think you could just go out in nature, presumably, and like pick all these fruits and vegetables, but that's not actually the reality of Mother Nature. It's not that easy. That's why we had to harness Mother Nature, and that's why we have agriculture, because it wasn't that easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if that was my argument. Meteor Man said, I asked him, why you eat meat or whatever, and then he said, well, this is why, because of, this was like his 10th reason why. And then he said, because of, I think humans did this through evolution, even though he said I don't believe in evolution. And then I started that off by saying, well, first of all, I don't even really want to get into this because this isn't evidence of anything. This is like one of the lowest forms of evidence of why somebody should eat something. But then I said, okay, well, let's talk about it anyway. So I wouldn't take my answers from that as I'm saying that that's why people should eat plants. I was just going along with, okay, let's have this conversation for the hell of it, even though this isn't really evidence of anything. Because it's an appeal to history, appeal to evolution. I mean, you're just basically taking a guess. There is some evidence, but like you're gonna just be guessing based off a little bit of evidence.
Well, I mean, appeal to evolution in a way is an appeal to science. It's
Yeah.
Evolution is just an explanation
Mm-hmm.
which could or could not be right. But I think what he was distinguishing between there was micro and macro evolution. So, for example, micro evolution would be the fact that you could breed different breeds of dog, right? Or there's evidence that we've adapted from being a human being that was more herbivorous to a more carnivorous one. There's evidence of that. I buy microevolution, but macroevolution, which is going from a fish to a bird, that has never been observed, and that takes a certain leap of faith. And there's a lot of arguments to the contrary that maybe it's just a theory basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Meteor Man, we both buy microevolution, but macroevolution, that's a little woo woo. But I'm not an expert, so I'm not like really trying to discuss the validity of evolution. I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah. So what? Well, to point to what you were saying though about like maybe plants weren't everywhere and that was hard as well. I mean, there's so many variables to that of like where in the world did those humans live? Uh, is going to be different based off the climate, and if you live like there right now, there's people that live in tropical areas where they're eating mostly plants, but then there's people that live in other parts of the world where they're having to eat meat. So it all depends on what part of the world you're coming from. It depends on what time. Like there's just like a million variables to why somebody would be eating something at a certain point. So that's why you have to go by actual like scientific data that's around now. You can look at that like as science, but it's like a low form of science. You still need more science to prove something. So I see what you're saying, like evolution is science, but it's not like the at the top
It's
of the
not
hierarchy.
incontrovertible proof. It's not proof. It's just a theory.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good theory. There's a lot I think about evolution that we would both agree on, but then there are other things that we may not. But as far as what our ancestors ate, I think it's not controversial to say that they ate both plants and animals. What we don't find in nature is strict plant eaters. What we do find is strict animal food eaters, at least seasonally. There are populations that were essentially carnivore, not 100% of the time, year round, but definitely for long periods of time. But there were no people who ate nothing but plants. So, I would take that as a win in my book, insofar as looking at our evolutionary history or what our ancestors ate, because there are no vegan populations. There are what I would consider carnivore populations.
So I mean that's a big guess. Like you can't be like I know everybody did this and none of them were plant eaters because history says so. I mean, if you're to go by that, first of all, that's a guess. And then the second thing I was going to say to that is if you could look at stuff now, so it doesn't matter what happened before, because you could look at populations right now, like say the Adventist studies, and you could see that the ones who ate more meat did poorly. Now, you might be able to point out and say, oh, well, these people that ate a little bit of fish, they did a little bit better than vegans in, I think it was all-cause mortality. But there's a couple things that the vegans did better in. But like those two were at the top, right? And so you could see that the vegan populations did great. The ones that were mostly plant-based did great with a tiny bit of fish, but all the other ones failed. And you could see that now. So it doesn't really matter to me what you guess, in the past.
Well, if you want to bring the Seventh-day Adventist study, the entire study, and you want to discuss it in detail, I'd be more than happy to do that. But that study doesn't prove anything. The foundation of that is, it's just a collection of anecdotes. So I don't see how, because, if I bring up and say this person is eating that or that person is eating that, you're going to probably say that that's anecdotal evidence. And I would argue that the Seventh-day Adventist study is just a collection of anecdotes. And moreover, if we are to accept it, the fish eaters did better than everybody else. That's a fact.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly, but they didn't have many vegans in that study. It was vegetarians. And people who ate meat less than once a month or about once a month were considered vegetarians. So, then there's a lot of confounding factors there. There's a healthy user bias. There's a lot we could discuss with that study. And then we could also point to populations that eat a lot of meat and live longer than the Seventh-day Adventists. So, it's not very convincing data in the broader context. It may suggest other studies, maybe trials, maybe better, conducting better science, but in and of itself, that study doesn't prove anything because, Seventh-day Adventists, for example, they don't smoke. They tend not to smoke. They tend not to drink. There's a self-selection bias going on there. And there's a lot of things wrong with that study. We don't have it in front of us, and nor am I prepared to discuss that. But we can do that if you want. And I don't find that as very, long story short, very convincing evidence of anything, to be honest with you.
So here's how like conversations usually go. Like, not just the Adventist study, but I could pull up other blue zone studies and other things and show you like, oh, these populations of people who ate, majority plants, they did better than the meat eaters, all these things. So basically, the more plants you eat, the healthier you are. I could pull up all sorts of studies like that. And you're just going to say, well, I don't like this study because of this. I don't like this study because of this. So if you're going to do that, I mean, anybody could do that. I could just dismiss all of your studies based on whatever the hell I want to dismiss them on. If you don't have any other better studies that you can present to me, then why should I even listen to you? Why should anybody listen to you? You don't have, if I'm presenting all this evidence and you're just saying, well, I don't want to look at it. We could look at another time. It's garbage. Like, what do you got?
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying
I heard what you
is
said,
that
but what do you have though? What do you actually?
Yeah, well, my point is that that's not evidence actually. So I don't have to present. I don't have to present anything to the contrary. If I could poke enough doubt into what it is that you're presenting as evidence.
So you're saying you don't have any actual studies about anything?
I'm saying you don't have any either. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I'm saying I do have studies. You just don't like them, but you don't actually even have a study for me to say that I don't like it. Like you don't even have.
I mean, I could definitely find something studies. Like for example, but the point I'm trying to make is that unless what you're presenting is valid, right? Then it's not valid. You have to prove that it is valid, that it actually, you could say, oh, the study exists. Yeah, but if it's worthless and I could show you that it is, then that's not evidence of anything. That's what I'm saying. So I don't have to present anything to the contrary unless my hypothesis is, if I want to argue that what I eat is better for everybody, which I would never do, because that's not my goal here. My goal is to debunk nonsense. So like if you bring nonsense to me and I'm able to debunk it, then you didn't actually provide any evidence. You attempted to, but your argument failed. So I don't have to provide anything to the contrary, because I'm not trying to argue that people should eat mostly meat or nothing but meat. I wouldn't even argue that. So that's not my goal. But I do like the blue zones, for example. I'm not sure I would call them studies necessarily. I guess it is a study in a way. It's not science though. It's definitely not science. But if you look at the blue zones, even by, you know, this the data that this no doubt biased person presented, Dan Buettner, right, who's invested in Memphis Meats, he pushes the plant-based agenda, right? So that's his bias. Even the data that he presents, those people ate a significant portion of their diet as animal products, right? So while on the one hand, the vegan agenda is saying that milk causes cancer or it causes all these problems, then they also want to push blue zones. And then you look at the Sardinians, and about a quarter of their diet is dairy. So, that doesn't add up. And in and of itself, if you want to talk about blue zones, that's going to debunk a lot of vegan claims off the get-go. But, I think it's a little tricky comparing Sardinians, let's say, to Okinawans or even Seven-Day Adventists, because they live in completely different environments. They're genetically different. It wouldn't be very scientific to compare these groups. We can discuss who lives longer, and we could discuss that stuff and then maybe try to get a general idea of what's going on, but it still wouldn't be very scientific because they're different people.
All right. Well, let's go with what is scientific then. If you don't like any of those studies, let's go with. Did you watch the Sferenge vegan gains debate? He brings up a study right at the beginning. Have you looked at that study about from the American, or not the American, the European Heart Journal?
I did not look at the consensus paper in detail, but Vegan Gains himself presented a hierarchy of evidence, right, in one of his videos. Now, I don't necessarily have to agree with this hierarchy because that's just an opinion. But on that hierarchy of evidence, opinion was very low. And this so-called study that he presented was a consensus paper, which was just an opinion of some kind of atherosclerosis society or something. So definitely people with an agenda.
No,
And ultimately,
no, that's not.
but it was just an opinion. It was just an opinion.
No, it's not. No, it's
called a consensus paper.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that it's an opinion because it's called a consensus paper. It's filled with all sorts of meta-analysis and randomization trials and tons of different studies. It's not just some guy just saying it. It's not just somebody's opinion.
Well, okay, so yeah, I don't deny the fact that they looked at studies, but what they did is they looked at science and epidemiology, mostly probably, and then they drew their conclusions from that, right? But I'm not going to just assume that their conclusions are correct because, scientists make mistakes. They're motivated by special interest groups, by money. So unless you could bring...
That's not an argument, though. That's not an argument. You can't just say, well, scientists are shady. You have to actually show...
Well, I'm not saying that they're shady. What I'm saying is that you're appealing to their authority, and I reject their authority. So
I'm asking you, what is wrong with this study, with all of these studies, with this paper? What is wrong with all?
In order for us to know what's wrong with them, we'd have to look at them. But no one ever did. Vegan Gains didn't look at the studies.
No, because
didn't look.
Yeah, because
nobody looked at the studies.
Yeah, all the meat eaters don't want to look at it. That's the point.
No, I can look at. No, I've been asking vegans to bring studies, and I'll discuss them to the best of my ability on my channel. I'm glad to do that. Bart K wants to debate science with Vegan Gains. It's Vegan Gains who doesn't want to. And one last thing, Vegan Gains did not present any science, not at least as far as this consensus paper. That was just a summary of the meta-analysis that they did. So the scientists look at the science and studies. Vegan Gains did not. He just read their opinion about these studies. So, if you could bring these studies and we could do this meta-analysis, and neither one of us is qualified. Let's keep it real.
So now you're saying everybody has to do the studies themselves? That's not how.
No. I'm saying you have to look at the study and make sure that the researchers did not make any mistakes. Make sure that their conclusion is correct, right? People make mistakes.
That's what I'm asking you to do. That's what I just said. I said, what is wrong with it? I'm asking your opinion on what you think is wrong with that paper.
Well, but but that paper was not a scientific study. It was just an opinion. It was like a really
It's
long
an
abstract.
opinion.
And
How
do
is
you
that
know
an
what a
opinion?
meta-analysis is?
Yeah, it's a. Why do people always ask that in debates? Like they think the other person won't know, and they're going to win some points or something because they know what a meta-analysis is. It's a bunch of studies. Yeah, that's what it is. There's more than one.
No, a meta-analysis is an analysis of a bunch of studies.
That's what I just said. There's more than one
Right.
study. Yeah. So like,
Right.
just
So
because here's the thing though, just because you know what something is, like I see Sferenge do this a lot, being like, "Well, you don't know what salt is," he said to Frank or whatever. Salt isn't sodium, and they're not. And just because you know that, that doesn't mean you're right about the other thing.
yeah, but that's not my argument. I'm just trying to make sure we're working from the same basis, that we
Okay. It
understand
just
one
seems
another.
like people try to win know-it-all points, but they're not actually winning the argument.
No, that's not what I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm making sure we understand each other. I'm making sure we're on the same page before I can move on,
All right. Go on.
because you seem to believe that Vegan Games presented science in that instance. He didn't. He
Mm.
presented a review of the science by some scientists.
Yeah,
So
I
it
understand
was
that.
just a it was just a summary of the science. What I'm saying is that without looking at the science, we have to trust that they did their due diligence, that they did this correctly. But if you're saying let's look at the science, then we cannot look at a meta-analysis. We have to do the meta-analysis ourselves, because
No,
that's
we
not
don't. No, we
science.
don't. We don't have to do the
Meta-analysis
meta.
is not science.
Wait, so me and you have to do it together? No, that's not how it works. Like, okay, you can do that yourself, right? But I'll wait for you to do that. And then you could come back and you could tell me what's wrong with it. Me and you don't have to do it together. I'm presenting this to you, or he's presenting this to you, or whoever it is, saying that this is what, is linked to heart disease. And you're
Yeah.
saying, no, it's not. And then, okay, well, we'll wait
No,
for
no,
you
no.
to
My
prove
point is
that
that
it's not.
he didn't present the science. He
Okay, but
presented a review,
yeah, so you could,
an
it's all
opinion.
there though. All the links
No,
are
it's not
there.
all there.
The links
Well,
are, so
okay, right.
yeah, so if you want to review it and you want to look it over, that's up to you to go do that. Until then, how you can't just be like, well, I'm not taking it as evidence and you're wrong.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say
Okay.
that at all. I'm saying we have to look at the science to be able to say whether it's right or wrong. So if you're
Yeah,
presenting it as evidence of something, the burden
sure.
of proof is on you. You have to prove that these researchers did their due diligence. Vegan
I
Gains didn't present any science.
Wait,
He
wait,
just
wait. So,
presented.
so you're saying that he would have to go through the 2 million people's all these studies and what 10 hours, and then what? And then we wait for replies, and until then, nothing's proven. That's why they have
Well,
studies. What is higher than okay? What do you put higher as evidence than a paper like that, in your
my
opinion?
own experience. My own experience trumps everything.
Anecdotes. Again, it's
Yeah,
always the
but I'm
anecdote.
not. Yeah, but I'm not telling anybody what to do. I would expect you to value your experience more than some carnivore diet study that says you should eat nothing but meat. Or
Okay,
that it's
okay.
healthy to do that.
Let me
And
ask you a question.
there's actually more real science on. There isn't much, but there's more clinical trials on um, the carnivore diet than the vegan diet. Actually, okay, maybe there are some clinical trials, like well conducted clinical trials that prove something about the vegan diet, but I've never seen any. I've never heard anybody mention any. I am familiar. I know of one carnivore study for in a metabolic ward for about a year or so, that at the very least didn't show any deficiencies, and the subjects in the study did not get sick. So like that exists. I've never seen anything like that with the vegan diet, to be honest.
Like okay, first of all, if you want to link me studies, like I could send you the European Heart Journal paper after this, or you want to link me any evidence that you have, I'm open to that. That's great. Find something and link it to me, and I'll check it out, and we'll talk about it later. I'll make a video or whatever you want to do. Uh, a good comment here somebody wrote is, yeah, they do have people who peer review studies. So that is a reason why they have that. So somebody just isn't like, oh, this is the evidence, and I'm leaving it up to the public to look at it themselves, and they don't know any better because they're just the public who knows nothing about science. No, they have other scientists peer review it. That's how it works. Let me
Yeah,
ask you a
but
book though.
there are studies, like, hold on, there are studies. The one study will say one thing, and there will be another study that says
That's why they
the
have. That's
exact
why they
op.
have
But hold on,
meta-analyses.
but
That's
hold
why they
on.
have a bunch of studies that they look
Yeah,
at.
but hold on, let me finish. So you have studies that completely contradict themselves, and if we are to just, and they're both peer reviewed, they supposedly both work, all we get is the abstract or something like that. How do we know who's right, who's wrong? We have to look at the actual study and see if it was conducted properly. So we can't
Yeah,
just trust somebody's review of the or
exactly,
conclusions from a
exactly.
study.
But that's why you have the hierarchy of evidence, and that's why the ones that have like meta-analysis and more studies involved and more peer reviewing, and they take out the studies that weren't done properly. The ones that have more variables, all that stuff. That's why there's the hierarchy of evidence. And you're
But
saying
there
I don't
isn't.
agree with that.
But there
But
isn't
then
a
you're
hierarchy of evidence. It
but
doesn't exist.
your argument that you just made was saying that there needs to be a better hierarchy of evidence, which is what a meta-analysis is compared to one study, and that's why they
No,
have it.
that's not my argument actually. There are multiple hierarchies of evidence depending on who is compiling the hierarchy. So a hierarchy of evidence is just someone's opinion on what's important and what isn't important, and there isn't any one universally accepted hierarchy of evidence. That doesn't exist. So to say that, present some kind of hierarchy of evidence that at the very bottom of the hierarchy has an opinion, what you just did is you said that this opinion of yours, which is the hierarchy of evidence, isn't really worth very much. It's very low on the hierarchy of evidence. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, I don't know why that wouldn't make sense to you. So they have a study with 2 million people, and then they have one guy's opinion. You're going to say one guy's opinion is the same as a study with 2 million people.
No, I didn't say that at all.
Well, then there's
That's
a
not what I'm saying.
hierarchy. Then there's
Yeah,
a
but
hierarchy. It makes no
but do you
sense.
understand that a hierarchy of evidence is just somebody's opinion of what's important, right?
Well, no,
It's not universal.
it's
If you
universal
go
as in
right now, look,
what? Okay, it's
if you go
scientific
right now,
consensus.
I'll tell you how. No, it's not a consensus. That's the problem. If you go look up hierarchy of evidence right now, you're going to find multiple hierarchies of evidence that don't agree with one another. There
Okay,
isn't just one universal, there is no consensus on any one hierarchy of evidence because they're merely opinions. That's all that they are.
and then we're gonna look of where they came from. If it's like some guy's opinion pieced article of this is where what I think the hierarchy of evidence is, I don't care about that one.
Yeah,
That's
but that's an
that's one
appeal. You
guy's.
don't have to care, but that's an appeal to uh, popularity or authority. And
No,
as
no,
such, I
that's
could
saying
reject
that's saying
it. Is.
anecdotal evidence isn't evidence.
I
Okay,
wouldn't say that it isn't.
well, okay. Let me ask you something. I was trying to ask you this a while ago. You said that you should go by your own experience. Like that's what you're thinking of. Why do you think educational books exist? Like, what is the point of learning from a book or the internet or anything, anybody? Because people have had experiences prior to you. Why would you learn from an adult? Why would you learn from literally anybody? Because they have experienced things before you have. So they could tell you, hey, don't touch that oven. It's hot. I know how an oven works. Don't do this. This is how you drive a car. This is how you protect yourself and don't get stabbed and all these things. You'll do way better by learning from others besides your own experience. That's just how life works.
That's a strawman argument. I never said you shouldn't learn from other people. I never said that.
People can rewind it. You said that your own experience is what matters. That's what you said. That's
No,
a
I said my own experience is most important to me.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it's
Yeah,
not.
but that doesn't mean that other things aren't important at all.
No,
But
you
you
literally need to learn everything from everybody else. It's not just your own experiences
Okay,
at
so
the
you're
top.
painting a false dichotomy right now. You're saying that you either learn from everybody outside of yourself or learn just from yourself. And what I'm saying is that you should learn from whatever the hell it is you want to learn from, multiple sources. However, for me personally, what I rely on first and foremost is my own experience, and I think that's very reasonable. And
But
uh,
your own experience just doesn't fly out of your butt. Like your own experience is learning from others.
well, no, my own experience is my own experience, and then learning from others, which I don't completely reject, obviously. It is another way of learning too. I'm not. You're saying that it's either or, it's hot or cold, it's black and white. I'm saying there are shades of gray. It's just that I put a lot more weight on my own experience, and I'm saying that that's very reasonable.
Okay, let me. What have you learned on your own? Let me just ask you that.
That I learned on my own that a low carb diet is best for my well being. For example, that's one thing I learned. I learned on my own that eating a lot of meat and animal products makes me feel the best. It's healed my body. Like it's good for me. So like for example, I've seen studies that say that meat causes inflammation, right? But then when I take out all the plants out of my diet and I eat nothing but meat, my inflammation goes away. So should I go with the study and should I keep eating plants that make me inflamed because the study says so, or should I go with my own experience? I mean, I think everybody in their right mind would agree that my experience, if you accept it as true, you could say I'm a liar, which is fine. That doesn't get us anywhere. But if you respect my experience as true, then you would be insane to tell me that I should go with that which will make me inflame because some study says so.
All right. Well, I would just say to that anybody can claim that they feel great, but not feeling great isn't the biggest killer on earth. The biggest killer on earth is heart attacks, and you could feel great until you have a heart attack. It's not like, oh well, I woke up this morning and everything was great. I don't feel inflamed, and then you drop dead of a stroke. Okay, so
Well, I
good
mean,
job following
vegans die
your
of
own
stroke
feelings.
too,
Yeah, but
but
it still
vegans.
doesn't matter. That's like saying you're saying, well, I'm just going based off day to day how I feel. And another thing is if you haven't experienced everything, like, you might have tried one form or two forms or whatever of a vegan diet that you thought was healthy and it just didn't work out because of some variable, then you can't say, well, this is the be all end all of nutrition and claim that to others because you don't know. You're just going off your own anecdotal experience. That's why you
I'm
need
not just
studies.
going off. I'm
That's why
not
you need
just going off
studies
my
with
experience.
hundreds of variables. You can't just have one person's story.
Well, studies, ones that I consider should be considered high on the hierarchy of evidence, are the ones that control for all the variables. But that's beside the point.
Okay, link one.
I
Link one
I
then.
don't. We can look. I didn't bring any studies. I'm not on my computer right now. I'm not really interested
Well,
in
do you
talking
know
about
the name
studies.
of one that what it's about? I mean, like,
No,
so
no, no. I was just
you're
talking
saying,
in
right, you're
general
saying you're
terms.
saying anecdotes are good. Your own experience is the highest. But then when I say, well, anecdotes are dumb and that's you should have variables, then you're saying, well, that's why I go by studies. And then I say link the studies, and then you say, well, I don't have any. I'll have them at home or whatever. Like, you really have nothing. I don't even know, like,
No, that's not it.
realistically.
You completely misrepresented everything that I said, and you did not represent.
And this is why
Um,
you rage quit last time, is because
do you want to know? Do you want to know why I rage quit last time? I'm
I don't
gonna
know. You can't.
embarrass you. Do you want me to tell you? You want everyone to hear why I rage quit last time? Do you want
Well,
to?
because
Okay,
you
let
thought
me
it was
tell you. Okay, so while I'm talking to you guys, my mother is in the hospital, potentially dying, and you guys are talking to me about, well, what if I raped your mother? What if I killed your mother? What if I did?
okay.
Now you
Come on.
didn't. Now hold on. Now you didn't know that at the time, so I don't blame you. However, it did trigger me, and I didn't want to talk to you guys anymore because I asked you not to do that, and you kept doing that. I told you that wasn't right for you to like. I said something along the lines of, why do you guys always have to like go after people's family or whatever? But look, I get it. You didn't do it maliciously. I'm not blaming you, but I'm just explaining to you why I didn't want to talk to you guys anymore because My mother's a very sick person, and I don't appreciate that sort of stuff. And I didn't even want to talk about that because it's none of your business. So
Okay,
I
well,
don't blame you, but I
I
just
don't
explain the
remember saying
situation.
that. I'll have to go back and look at the thing to see if I
Well, I
actually
remember very
said
well. I
anything.
remember
It's on YouTube.
very
It's
well.
on YouTube, so I could go
I
back.
remember very
And then,
well, dude.
but
It's
then you
there.
even came back afterwards, and you didn't say anything like that to me. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, come on, you guys. First of all, I was supposed to be talking to you. I come to the debate, and then there's some guy, Nick, that I've never met, and then there's two of you
Well,
against
there
me.
was two of you guys too. There was Millennial Prepster was there
No,
too.
he came on later, and he
Okay, but
wasn't
still,
really, and
it
he
was
wasn't really interested.
a couple
He
meat
wasn't
eaters,
interested in
couple
that debate.
vegans.
No, he wasn't interested in that debate,
Well,
and
I
he was,
debated him like 2 or 3 times.
and he was plant-based at the time, so
No,
forget
he
it.
was eating rabbits. He has a
He ate
farm with
some
rabbits.
meat. He ate like 90% plants.
He
He's
kills his
he's
own rabbits.
Yeah, but he ate mostly plants. He eats more meat now. He went from being mostly plant-based to being animal-based. So, hey,
Doesn't
studies
matter.
though.
Anecdotal.
Well, no, I'm just saying that's what he prefers. But
Yeah.
look, I'm not saying that my experience is the only thing. I'm saying it's going to be more important than some study that contradicts my experience. Now, if there's a study that corroborates my experience, then yeah, obviously that study I'm going to take it into consideration, and I'm going to try to find out, maybe look at it to see why it is that I'm feeling this way, why I'm experiencing this. Maybe there's a scientific reason. So yeah, but if a study completely contradicts my experience, then I'm still going to go with my experience if that's what I want from my life. Now, you telling me that I'm going to die of a heart attack, I mean, almost everybody on this planet is going to die
Well,
of some kind of
that's a
cardiac
straw man.
malfunction.
I've never said that. I never said
Well,
you're
but
gonna die of a heart attack.
you insinuated that I may, that there's a high
Well,
risk that I might.
well, how can I believe the thing that you last said that? Oh, you said this in the last live stream when you're straw manning me and just making up stuff that I said. I never said that.
I'm not making up stuff. Maybe I misrepresented you, but you were insinuating that eating the way I eat causes potentially heart disease. No, and if not, then we agree. I don't think it does.
All I asked you to do was look at that study and tell me what you think is wrong with it. And
Yeah, but I'm
you're
saying the
saying I
burden
don't
of
believe
proof
in
is on you.
studies.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the
No, okay,
burden
so
of proof is on you.
presenting you a study and me saying, have a look at this, tell me what you think is wrong, and then you say the burden of proof is on me. What does a person literally have to do to prove something to you? You want me to take some test tubes to your house and we could do a study ourselves?
No, if you want to prove something, you got to provide evidence. Saying that a meta-analysis
What?
exists is not evidence. That's
What do you
someone's
mean?
opinion.
That's
Well,
a
because
meta-analysis is an opinion now. Okay, I don't think you understand what science is.
now, do you know what a meta-analysis is?
Yeah, it's a. Why do people always ask that in debates? Like they think the other person won't know, and they're going to win some points or something because they know what a meta-analysis is. Okay, I don't think you understand what science is. A series of studies looked at by scientists is an
What?
opinion.
No, no, no. What I'm saying is that you don't have the primary sources. You're looking at someone's interpretation
There's
of the
links.
data.
There's links.
Yeah, but you didn't read those studies. You want
Why
me
did?
to read the
Okay,
studies you didn't read?
but that's what
How
I
is
just
that fair? But
That's what I
look,
just
this
asked you.
is this is
Do
what
you
you're
want me
saying.
to? No, but that's what I just asked you. What does somebody need to do for you? Do you want them to grab the studies and come over to your house with them printed out and we can read them together? Like what does
No, we
somebody
could
need to do?
we could do that. We could do that online. I mean, this has been done many times. You've
Okay,
engaged in this sort of thing before with Milk Jar and other people, and
sure,
as I already stated, I'd be more than willing to do that. So if you have a study that you think says something,
sure.
read the study, send me the whole study. I will read it myself. Obviously, I'm not going to read 400 pages of something. I don't have the time for that. But if you have a study that you want to discuss, I'm willing to do that. If you want to discuss a meta-analysis, I think the only fair way to know whether that meta-analysis is legit is to do the meta-analysis yourself. Otherwise,
Okay.
you're just trusting the judgment of scientists, and ultimately they may be correct, but you can't say that they are correct without having done the work yourself. That's all I'm saying.
So okay, just basically because you yourself, you want like just an insane amount of evidence and people basically doing things for you. that you're saying that's the way life is and that's the way it should be, or
No, that's not what I said.
you're just basically like a very hard person to convince. Like it's not, this is like nobody else is like, oh, you need to, me and you need to do meta-analysis together. Like I've never even heard a
No, 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 no,
person
no,
say
no.
that.
You're saying that this meta-analysis says something, and I'm telling you that in order to make that statement, you have to do the meta-analysis, which you haven't done.
Okay. So again, I've never even heard a human being said, let's do the meta-analysis
That's not an
together.
argument. That's
No,
not an argument.
I'm just saying you're like, you're an exception to everybody else. Like nobody else would ever ask for that. So
So
it's like,
just because some people don't know how to debate or argue, you're going to blame me for that?
no, no, it has nothing to do with debating. It's just that why would anybody waste their time doing that with you?
Why wouldn't anybody waste their time doing that, period?
Well, they wouldn't, nobody else would ask for that.
Why would you waste your time reading the studies when you could just listen to Dr. Greger, right? I mean,
I don't really watch Dr.
he's
Gregory.
a healthy looking individual. It's not like he's
You
got
really
brain
like
fog
Dr.
or anything.
Gregory. Well, how come
I
you like
love
Dr.
Dr.
Gregory?
Greger.
Yeah, you love that guy. Talk
He
about him all
reads
the
this
time.
because he reads the studies so that you don't have to.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's
Maybe you need that. I never watched that channel though.
Look, I don't. If you want to bring any study, I'll be willing to take a look at it and we can discuss it. But for the time being, we haven't done that. You're just
Okay.
saying that this exists because I say it does. That's not
No,
valid.
no, I'm not saying this exists. I'm saying that's, if you want to see it, it's at the very beginning. Well, I mean, it's been brought up a lot of times in debates and nobody has ever had anything to say about it, and that's why I'm bringing it up. The first time I saw
So
it
what does
brought,
it say? What
the
does this
first,
opinion
well,
say?
hold on. The first time I saw it brought up was against your buddy Bart K there, and it was on Ask Yourself's channel. I think his name was Dr. Vegan, was his YouTube name, and he brought that against Bart K, and Bart K basically said, the same type of thing. I don't believe in science. I'm skeptical of everything, and blah blah blah.
No, Bart K
And
never said that.
just all sorts of nonsense. I don't know
No, 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 no,
exactly
no, no,
what.
no, 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 no,
But
no.
and then the same thing with Sfarange, and then I'm bringing it up to you again. So, this is the
Dude,
at
none
least
of
the third
these.
time it's been brought up to these type of people, and the same thing again is like, oh well, let's have to do the meta analysis ourselves. Maybe I'll see it someday, and blah blah blah. It's never like, okay, I'll look at it and then I'll get back to you.
So if I do a meta-analysis of certain studies and I come to the conclusion that the vegan diet kills people, yeah, you're just gonna say,
who
oh,
are you to do a meta analysis though? Like,
oh, that's an appeal to authority.
no, it's not.
Yes,
Like,
it is.
how do you don't even know what you're doing? Like,
Now, do you know what a meta-analysis is?
yeah, it's a. Why do people always ask that in debates? Like they think the other person won't know, and they're gonna win some points or something because they know what a meta analysis is. How do you do a meta analysis? Like,
Well, I
where
mean,
have you ever done one?
okay,
Like, do
I'm
you know
gonna
what you're
enlist.
doing?
Yeah, but you're appealing to an authority right now.
No, I'm asking you. Do you know what you're doing? Like, who are you to do one? Like, have
Yeah,
you ever?
I could do a
Who's
meta-analysis.
taught
Why
you how
not?
to do this?
Why can't I do a meta-analysis? If you think you can discuss a meta-analysis and how it was conducted, then you should be able to conduct one yourself, no?
Okay, so if I can't discuss a rocket going to, I can't discuss a rocket going to Mars without being able to build a rocket. Like that's it's not how it
No,
works.
no, no. The argument is that you shouldn't talk about building rockets because you don't know how to build rockets. I mean, you could
What?
talk
Okay,
about.
you shouldn't talk about women because you don't know how like a fallopian tube works, and you've never been a woman before. So you should never mention the word woman because you don't know what you're
That's not what I'm
talking about.
saying. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you're completely misrepresenting everything I'm saying. Look, if you want to look at a meta-analysis and see if it was conducted properly, then aren't you in a way saying to everybody that you know how to conduct the meta-analysis? If you could critique somebody, look, if you can correct a mechanic or confirm what a mechanic did to your car, right, by looking at what he's doing, then that means that you know what you're doing too. If you don't, if you're less knowledgeable about cars than the mechanic, then it really doesn't matter what you have to say about the car, right? That's the only point that I'm making, is that if we agree to do a meta-analysis, then aren't we also agreeing, or if we agree to critique a study, aren't we also agreeing that we understand the science, at least to some degree?
Okay. You're the one who's saying that you're going to start doing your own meta-analyses, not
No,
me.
I'm saying what if. I'm saying what if.
Okay. So here's the
So
thing.
so
I'm
no, he
looking at the paper and I'm being like, "Oh, this is what I'm getting from reading this." You're going, "Well, I should be able to do all this myself because I'm a scientist or I'm this, I'm that."
no, I never said
Who are
that.
you?
I
Who are
never.
you to do all this? That's what I'm
Dude,
asking you.
you're like the king of strawmen, and
Okay, did I say let's look at it and read it? Yes. Did you say let's do the meta-analysis ourselves? Yes. So what am I straw
no,
manning?
I didn't say we should do. I'm saying if you want to have an honest opinion on what transpired and how it was done, you should do the meta-analysis. Unless you're doing the meta-analysis
You know
yourself,
what? Let's
or
just start cutting people open. Let's just let's look at their arteries and let's do the science ourselves. Let's just
dude,
do that.
you're
Why don't
not
we do
making any
that?
sense. You're not
Dude,
making any sense.
let's like go get some hearts. Let's go buy some hearts and we'll see.
Look,
We'll put
if
meat in them.
if you think there are studies that say something about the vegan diet and you have read the studies and you understand the studies, send me the studies, like two or three tops. I will take a look and we could discuss those studies in detail. Not abstracts, not somebody's opinion of a study, not an article talking about the study, but the study itself. So, all I'm saying is that, you know, scientists make mistakes. There's corruption in science. There's bias.
Mm,
There are problems with the science. Sometimes
yeah.
what they say the study proves, it doesn't. You know what I mean? Whatever conclusions they draw from the study are
Yeah.
erroneous. That has been aptly demonstrated. So what the only thing I'm saying is that if you want to have an honest opinion,
Hmm.
a valid intellectual opinion about any particular study, you got to look at the study yourself. That's all I'm
Hmm.
saying.
Or you could do the study yourself, or we could talk about our own experiences.
Yeah, you doesn't your experience, isn't that valid to you, your own experience?
What? Okay. If I'm on YouTube, being like, "Hey guys, this group of people is all wrong about what they're saying, and I'm right, and these are facts, and this is the way things are, and everybody listen to me." That's
Yeah,
not
that's
just
your
that.
YouTube channel.
No, that's you saying, "Oh, own experiences," though, and not being like, "Well, this is actual evidence." This is you just saying, "Own experiences over everything, people," and my own experiences are facts for everybody.
I had
That's
never said that. No, no, no. I never said that.
You just said your
Never.
own experiences are the highest form
To
of
me,
evidence
to me,
to
to
me.
me.
So nobody should listen to you then.
I'm not saying anybody should listen to me.
Okay,
I've
good,
never said that.
good.
I've never
Thank you,
said that.
thank you. Nobody listened to him.
I've never said anybody should listen. People listen to me because they want to.
Nobody listened to Carneval. He's over here telling Dr. Greger, a doctor, that he's wrong. The guy who reads studies, he's wrong. Nobody listened to him, but don't listen to me either
Okay,
because
so
I don't know.
explain this to me because there's a contradiction in Dr. Gregor's ideology. It's not
Why do
science.
you love that guy so much?
Okay, so Dr. Gregor says that eggs and dairy will give you cancer, right? That they're horrible, they're
Mm,
poison, yada yada
mm.
yada, right?
Did he
Eating
say
it,
give you? Did he say give you or
eating
did he say linked?
eating an egg is like smoking two cigarettes or something along. You know the dogma, right? You know the
Do you want
saying.
me to tell you what it actually is?
Yeah, what does it say?
It says having this certain amount of eggs and having this
Hmm.
certain amount of cigarettes will clog your arteries the same amount.
Okay, right. So eggs are bad for you, basically, is what Dr. Gregor is saying. That's my point, right?
Well, which part of the egg? Do
The
you know?
yolk, the whole egg, the whole
Do you
egg.
know? What's in the yolk?
But is that what he's saying?
Oh no, I'm asking you. I thought
Yeah,
you
but
knew about
you're
what you're
answering a
talking about.
question with a question. You're not answering my question.
No, I'm
I'm
trying to
trying to,
figure out what
I'm
you're
trying,
talking about.
well, then you need to let me say it.
Okay.
So Dr. Greger says eggs are bad for your health. Milk is bad for your health. And then he will turn around and find a study on lacto-ovo vegetarians, people who eat eggs and dairy, and he'll try to argue how those people prove that the vegan diet works. Can you see the contradiction?
No, you want me to explain how that works too? So there's people that are eating eggs, dairy, and meat, right? And then there's, let's say half of them, or let's say a small group of these people decide we're not eating the meat anymore. So they cut out, like, red meat, fish, whatever. They cut out a bunch of things out of their diet, and they still just have the milk and the eggs. And they now are healthier. They do better because now they've also added more plant foods into their diet to substitute for the meat and the stuff that they were eating. So you
Yeah,
could
that's
be
not
like,
what he
these
says
people
though.
are healthier.
No,
So
that's not what he says.
that's why
No, that's not what he
vegetarians
says.
do better
No, that's not
because
what he
there's
says.
no meat.
Dr. Greger and a lot of vegans say the same thing. They say eggs are bad for you. They will cause cancer or heart attacks, so on and so forth. Dairy is horrible. Don't drink dairy. It's bad for you. They say
Mm-hmm.
that on the one hand. And then on the other hand, they use people who eat more eggs and more dairy than meat eaters in general, vegetarians. And they try to say that that somehow proves that the vegan diet works. It doesn't make any sense. They talk about how little heart attacks people that eat eggs have, while on the other hand, they're telling you that eating eggs is going to give you more heart attacks. It doesn't make any sense.
It's the same reason why you don't understand why.
Now, do you know what a meta-analysis is?
Yeah, why do people always ask that in debates? Like, they think that the other person won't know, and they're going to win some points or something because they know what a meta-analysis is.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's the same reason why you don't understand why, like, the blue zone populations, like, even though they're eating a small amount of meat, it's not because they're eating meat and they're not fully vegan that's why they're healthier than the rest of the populations. It's because they're eating majority plant foods, and the more plant foods you're eating, the better off your health's going to be, and that's where it comes down to.
India is mostly vegetarian, and they live. They have a lot of disease, and their life expectancy is very,
All right,
very, very low.
pull something up and show me that.
No, you can look this up yourself.
Okay.
If you don't believe that what I said, then that's fine. Anyone in the chat room who's interested, they can look this up. This isn't rocket science. It's all out there. You can look this up. And
Yeah,
insofar as blue zones go, they eat quite a bit of meat actually,
quite a
and
bit of
they
meat.
and the one thing that's really that all the blue zones have in common is that they're all coastal areas, which should lead you to surmise that maybe perhaps they eat a lot of fish. Not only that, but coastal areas, there is a lot of iodine in the water, in the air, in the soil. So even the vegetables that are grown on the coast will have a lot of iodine. And people that live more inland, they tend to be more iodine deficient, which is why the government puts iodine in the salt, so on and so forth. So, you could very well make an argument that people in the blue zones, which are all coastal areas, all of them, every single one of them, you could make an argument that the reason why they're healthier than the average population is because they get a good dose of natural iodine, right?
Yeah,
So the blue
we could
zones,
make all sorts of things up, right? Like, we could just
yeah, but
make up
that's no, I'm
science.
not making it up. It's a very
Let's
reason.
do our own
So it's not.
meta-analysis on it. Me
So
and
you're
you.
saying what I said is not reasonable.
Well, I don't know. Me and you will probably have to do a meta-analysis on iodine now to figure that out ourselves.
So you're saying that what I said is not reasonable? Is that what you said?
I mean, well, what? Okay, so let me ask you a question, and
So
then
you're not gonna
I'll
answer. You're
yeah.
gonna
Well,
ask a
I don't
question.
even. So here's the thing: is, like, I don't even know what the hell you want, or what you're saying, or what you're arguing for, or anything. It's like, what you're
That's not an
saying.
argument.
That's not an argument. I know. I'm not making an argument right now. I'm
I know you
asking a
haven't made
question.
any arguments.
Okay, so now we're just being ridiculous. Okay, so what exactly do you think is a healthy diet? Let's start there. And
Well, that's
you're probably gonna say I don't know, right? Because you don't.
if you know what answers I'm gonna give. Why are you asking questions?
Well, that's the whole point. Because I've asked you this before. I say to you, well, what makes a healthy diet? And then you go, well, I don't know. I'm just here to debunk other people. Well, why are you talking about healthy diets if you don't even understand what gives you a healthy diet? What is a healthy diet?
I know what a healthy diet is for
Okay.
me.
Well, for you, no, for a human being.
Why should I worry about that? I'm not an
Why are you
ideologue.
on YouTube? Why are you on YouTube?
Well, because vegans are trying to take away my
So
ability to. Can I finish? You guys are authoritarians who want to take people's freedoms away from them, and I disagree with that because
how do I do that? How am I doing that? Explain.
Veganism, that's what veganism is, isn't it?
No, how am I doing? Okay, I'm a vegan. I'm on YouTube. How am I taking away things from anybody?
I mean, you don't have that power yourself, but you are telling
Mhm.
people to eat the way that you eat. I don't do
Okay,
that.
so you're telling people a whole bunch of things too. So you're an authoritarian. Everybody's telling people stuff. What are you talking about?
No, telling you want people to stop eating meat. You want the government to take the meat away from people. That's what vegans want.
Okay, you don't want anything in your life?
Do you want the government to take away
Is
people's right to eat meat?
you just answered my question with a question.
Do you,
You just answered
well,
my
I
question with a
mean, you
question.
haven't answered my question at all. You're not answering any question.
So you
Look,
don't
look,
you
look,
just
look,
said
Logan, look. Well, just let me say this. Let me say,
wanting
look,
things makes
Logan,
you an authoritarian.
Logan. If you're gonna get all insecure and shit, and you're not able to have a civil
Oh,
conversation, then I'm just wasting my time here. I'm not
you're
gonna
gonna
waste my.
rage quit. You're gonna rage quit again, and then you're gonna say it was because of some
First of
other
all,
reason.
I'm not upset. Okay, don't you're giving yourself too much credit. I'm not
Okay.
angry. I'm
Well, can you
very
answer my
calm.
question then? Can you answer
I'm
the
not
question?
angry. I'm very calm. I'm just trying to have a civil conversation. What I'm telling you is that if you're unable to do that, then I'm not going to waste either one of
You
my
answered
or
my
your time.
question with a question, and I'm just pointing that out that you just got upset that I did that. So
No, you
what I
never
was
answered my
saying,
question. You never answered my
you're
question.
saying that vegans want people to stop eating meat, and that's bad.
Right?
That
They
makes
do.
them
They do.
authoritarian. So
It
I'm
does.
asking you, you don't want anything like in your life? Like there's nothing that you want that you wish people would stop doing or people would.
Okay, so you just misrepresented, Logan.
I'm
You just
asking you.
misrepresent.
So do
Yeah.
you
So
want
can I
people?
answer?
Okay,
So can I answer?
go ahead.
You just misrepresented me, and your argument is asinine. I'm not saying that wanting things makes you an authoritarian. What I'm saying is that you wanting to take away my freedoms makes you an authoritarian. Do you not see the difference?
Take away your freedom. So can I just say you're taking away animals' freedoms? So you started it.
You can say that, but I don't agree with you. You can say
Okay.
whatever you
Why?
want
Why? Why don't you agree with me?
because animals don't have the freedom that you think that they do.
Says who?
Meanwhile, I have the freedom that I have. This is a fact. It's not me saying it that makes it so. It's the fact that it is so that makes it so.
Okay, so I'm saying you don't have any freedoms. I said so. I'm doing the same thing that you're doing.
No, you're not, because you're saying that you saying that something is makes it so. I'm saying that I'm merely me saying that it is so merely reflects reality.
So you're
You're
saying
trying.
animals don't have any freedoms because
They
you
don't.
said so.
No, farm animals don't have freedom. No, they don't.
Farm animals because you put
Not
them in a
because I said
cage
so.
because
Well,
they're in a
yeah,
cage. Yeah.
exactly.
So you
Right,
put
but
them
not.
there. So as long
But
as you put somebody in a cage and you take away their freedoms, then they don't have any freedoms.
right, but within your worldview, an animal is a somebody. In my worldview, animal is not a somebody. It's a something. I have a
Based off
different
what?
worldview
Based off what?
based off
But
the fact that the animal is a something, not a someone. Someone is a
so
person.
that's an opinion that's based off of nothing, but yet I'm an authoritarian and you're not. Even though your opinion's based off of nothing.
Okay, well, I think my patience has run dry.
Mm,
I don't
mm,
think you.
mm.
I don't think.
I think that's the gotcha moment right there.
I
Just
don't.
nothing to say. Gotta leave now. Nothing to say, and you gotta leave now, right? I gotta go to work anyways pretty soon, but
No,
you know,
you're completely irrational.
yeah.
You can't comprehend the simplest of
It was an easy
concepts.
question. It was an
You
easy question.
you you can't comprehend the simplest of concepts. You misrepresent everything that I say,
That's true.
and
That's true.
it's really difficult to try to have a reasonable conversation with someone like
Hmm.
you because
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
see, you won't even see. This is why I didn't want to talk to you. This is why I
Hmm.
quit last time. Is because
Hmm.
that's all that you do. You just talk over people. You don't
Yeah.
take into like your brain cannot process what it is that people are saying. You
Hmm.
misrepresent everything that they say. You don't
Hmm.
debate in good faith. You don't
Yeah.
debate honestly.
Yep.
You're just, dude. Like you're useless, bro.
Yep.
You're useless.
If you come over and we could do like a meta analysis about it, and we could figure out what's wrong with me, that would help me out.
That's not an argument. Anyway, I tried. I did my best. I said what I had to say. Thanks
Yeah.
for the opportunity and have
Okay.
a good day.
Don't be an authoritarian anymore. All right. Quit YouTube. 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 Quit YouTube.